So, Nicky, the start of the Cheltenham 2022 starts in just over 3 weeks, and the first race is going to be a pivotal moment for the stable, with two really strong contenders in the Sky Bet Supreme Novice Hurdle. Constitution Hill, first of all, 2 from 2 over hurdles at Sandown, and he's looked really good so far this season.
He has. He's an extraordinary character. I mean, after he first came over here and we bought him, I mean, Barry Geraghty had him in Ireland, and I rang Barry 2 or 3 times. I said, "What on earth is this? It's a goat." It just showed you nothing. It couldn't keep up with the others at the walk. It couldn't keep up with them trotting. And as for when it cantered, it was just asleep. And he said, "Don't worry, my 3-year-old daughter used to ride it. It's always like that." And he was dead right. He's a sort of, the great thing is he lives life like that, but then when you ask for it, it works. And he's sort of push-button horse, and he just goes along, he does what he has to do until you say, go, you press the button, and it works.
And he's been very impressive, both his wins at Sandown. The ground was quite testing last time. Do you think, is that something that he needs, or it's just...
I don't think so. I mean, he's very good at home, and we never have testing ground here. That's why, by and large, our horses don't go in testing ground. He does his work as, you know, say the first time he worked, I thought he was useless because he didn't do anything. And then we sort of discovered that if you pull him out and say go, suddenly went, and you couldn't believe it. 2 completely different horses. And he's very smart.
And Jonbon, 5 from 5, obviously had a huge reputation even before he stepped foot on a race course. His last performance at Haydock in the Sky Bet Rossington Main on testing ground was still a good performance.
I was happy with him. 1 or 2 sort of tried to pick a hole in it, but I don't see why. He jumped well, he quickened well, he finished his race very, very strong. You know, he'd get further than 2 miles. They both would. You could switch them. Either could go 2.5. They're not going to. At least at the moment, that's not the plan. Either could go 2.5 if they needed to, easily. But he's sharp too, yeah, very.
And Jonbon, would it be fair to say he kind of gets quite sort of revved up prior to a race?
He's always on his toes, and I sort of often described him as a fidget more than anything. It's probably why he and I get on quite well together. He does everything quite busily. He'll be all right. I mean, it's the first race on the first day. That's probably in his favour. Before it all gets too overwhelming, he'll calm down. He has to. I mean, he'll be on his toes and he'll probably get warm, but that's him.
And ground-wise, do you think hopefully the better ground at Cheltenham would suit him rather than that softer ground that we had at Haydock?
Better ground always suits our horses because, as I say, we're always on good ground. I know Constitution would look very good in heavy ground, but I'm sure he'd be just as good on good ground. And Jonbon, same thing. I think that was soft enough for him at Haydock, but he still was far too good for them. So I've got to take it as it comes. I mean, if it's been like the last few days, it's going to be... well, the only one thing it is going to do, as far as John, who's going to be the new clerk of the course this year for the meeting, is that it'll, if the weather's like this, it's going to at least eliminate the dilemma of do we don't water, which I think from their point of view is always quite a nice thing, not to have to make a decision like that.
And just finally on the Sky Bet Supreme, speaking to a couple of the team, it seems quite split in terms of who is the better Constitution Hill, Jonbon. Clearly, you're not going to tell me which one you think, but you clearly go in there with high hopes for both of them.
Well, you'd rather have 2 shots at it than 1, wouldn't you? I mean, it's going to be hard enough. Willie Mullins is going to come in with 2. We'll probably need 2. And if they finish first and second, nobody's going to worry. We're all part of a team, so are the owners, and but it's great if they did, but it's going to be tough. And it's a very important race, the first race. Yeah, I say it every year. If you could just win that, it's a great one to get under your belt, get one on the board, then you're off and away.
So we've had the first and second in the Supreme, then we're on to the Champion Hurdle. Epatante, who looked fantastic this morning and looked like she was back to somewhere near her best at Christmas at Kempton.
She did, and in fairness, in the fighting fifth when she dead heated, but we set out at the beginning of the year saying, well, look, Honeysuckle's going to be virtually impossible to beat, so we're going to concentrate on the fighting fifth of the Christmas Hurdle, and anything after that will be a bonus. But, you know, she's been in different shape altogether this year, and she's just been in very good form, and she's had a nice little break and she's fresh, but Honeysuckle is still there looming large, and you know, it's two very good mares, both getting £7 off boys that they're probably better than anyway, but you know, there'll be plenty of boys in there waiting to take them on. But yeah, she's got to be the one we're going to have to concentrate on. It'll be interesting, but Honeysuckle has just done absolutely, she hasn't put a foot wrong throughout her whole career, and you know, we've won a Champion Hurdle, but you know, she's a different cup of tea altogether.
The Champion Chase on Wednesday promises to be one of the big clashes of the festival. Obviously, we had round one, Shishkin and Erjamin. We've got Shacham Poursois, who threw his sort of hat into the ring over in Ireland, but you must be delighted with Shishkin.
I mean, he's done nothing wrong all the way through. That was, you know, the race at Ascot was billed as one of the great clashes, and it was great that it lived up to it. These sort of things often have a sort of habit of flopping on the day, don't they? But the good thing was there wasn't neither dominated to the point of that the Champion Chase suddenly became rather irrelevant. There was only a length in it, and that's nothing. 6 weeks later, maybe different ground, going the other way round, which might actually help us, but you've still got an enthralling contest and Shacham Poursois et al. Coming in to join the party. So it's a long way from just being the two of them, but even if it was the two of them, it's still going to be fascinating because there is very, very little between them.
Trainers tend to work on, he was so many percentage fit. How fit was he? Was he just about 100% for that, or is there anything to work on?
He was pretty good, yeah. He wasn't. We weren't. You couldn't afford to be anything else. I mean, we'd had he'd won nicely at Kempton over Christmas. We all know he didn't run in the Tingle Creek because he was all wrong at the time of the Tingle Creek. But to be fair, that sort of played into that's because of that we got the race at Ascot that we got, which was great. So everybody benefits. Yeah, he was ready for that, yes. But he's had a good little freshen up since then, so I'm sure Willie's been doing the same, so we'll meet again.
Fantastic. The Paddy Power Stayers Hurdle, you're represented by Champ in what looks a really open renewal of the race. Won the RSA, pulled up in the Gold Cup, then bounced back to form in the Long Walk, and then a good second in the Cleve Hill behind Paisley Park. You must go there still with ambitions of a huge race from him.
Yeah, we need to be. He was definitely sharper at Ascot in the Long Walk than he was in Cheltenham, to be fair. I need him like he was at Ascot. He was very slick, he was very sharp, he was always running all over. I mean, to be honest with you, the Long Walk, I thought we'd left it behind when Buzz got hurt literally the day before the race. And yet Champ, who was having his first run since last year's Gold Cup, you know, I was just thinking, well, this little sharpen him up and wake him up and see how he is. But he was seriously impressive. All of a sudden we missed having Buzz in there. I wish we did still have him there, but hopefully he will be back for next year. But anyway, we didn't need him in the long walk because Champ was there and he picked up the mantle really well. I just didn't think he jumped quite as sharply at Cheltenham as he did the previous time, that's all. So we'll see if we can just get him flowing like he did the time before.
Yeah. Was there any, do you think, can you put that sort of lack of sort of sharpness over the hurdles down to anything in particular, or maybe just a little bit of an off day?
No, I don't know. I don't think it came too quick for him, but no, you couldn't really. There wasn't anything obvious, and sort of he just didn't jump quite as economically as he had done at Ascot. Yeah.
Okay. And then on to the Boodles Gold Cup. Chantry House, who's possibly slightly crabbed the performance at Cheltenham back in January, but he ground it out, he got it done, and he's a festival winner.
Yeah, he won there last year. I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of the Cotswold Chase, really. I mean, you could go back and say, look, well, I knew Santini very, very well, indeed, and he was second in a Gold Cup. So it might have been some very solid form indeed, for all we know. Santini's going to turn up again, I'm sure. But I think the Gold Cup itself this year is a very, very wide open race. There's all sorts of horses that can win it. There's no obvious big gun to shoot at. There are a lot of very good horses, and it is wide open. I suspect you'll get quite a big field to go with it.
Okay, fantastic. A couple of other horses to talk about. In the Ballymore, you've got two entered in that. Iron Maximus, who's multiply entered for a number of races and walking on air. First of all, Iron Maximus, would be the plan to go for the Ballymore, I guess, particularly after the form was boosted with Hillcrest at the weekend? Yeah,
Hillcrest will go 3 miles, and I certainly wouldn't want to be going 3 miles with Iron Maximus. Not this year, anyway. He's a good horse, and I think he ran a great race. I assume, I'm thinking the other horse just outstayed him the other day, because really jumping the last, it looked as if we'd collared him. But the other horse just kept galloping. He's a good horse. So Maximus is entitled to be there, as is Walking On Air, who might be a bit short on experience, but I expect he'll run. I'd have liked another run, I must admit, but it's got too close to do that now.
Marie's Rock was really impressive when winning at Warwick the other day. That step up in trip really seemed to suit her.
It did, and when she got there, they quickened up off the bend, and she quickened up, and then she quickened again. And I loved the way she went to the line. I mean, she was just strong. She got the trip really well, and she just thought she was very good 2 years ago, and then had an injury, didn't reappear last year in the same shape at all, but she has bounced right back.
And from your comments, you seem to think that she's possibly gone under the radar a little bit and might actually outrun her price.
We put her in, and then I looked at Warwick again, and I thought, well, hang on, I don't think this is unrealistic. I thought it was a bit of a wild card entry, to be honest with you, to start with. But I sort of rather like the idea of it.
And then finally, obviously the handicap's incredibly competitive, but a couple of horses that might turn up in the county hurdle, First Street and Broomfield Berg, who both ran well in the Betfair hurdle. I guess first up, First Street, who was a really good third in the race.
Yeah, he ran very well, didn't he? He's had a very good first season. They're both novices. But I'd say he'd probably run. Would promise Broomfield Berg will run, but I'd say First Street will. We sort of discussed with JP yet what the plans are on that score, because we haven't seen the entries or the weights yet, but they're both in good form, so they probably will.